Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
If they made the decision after week 1, I would think he'd have to be in the conversation. There's a lot of weeks left, Chris. We're going to do this a lot more, you and me. Sit here and talk. You're probably going to have that seat right there in the front row. And oh, my goodness, I think back to week 1 when you're in week 15, 16, 17. I mean, it's a distant memory. So you win or lose, you kind of treat them like stages of the Tour de France. You just go back to, emptying the binder and start filling the next binder with the next game plan and try to get the next one.
Judd, don't you have that same shirt that Kirk was wearing? That's sort of like beige.
Probably. I think we share a lot of clothes.
That button-up, short-sleeve shirt there.
I probably do.
You guys are a lot more alike than maybe you think you are.
Mine might be blue. I mean, we definitely
have a blue one, yeah.
Yeah, we definitely have things in common. I don't think he has as much fun in life as I do, but he's incredibly rich, so he probably has.
Oh, he has his own
fun.
Yeah.
We definitely don't share a lot of things, but there are certain things where I look at Kirk and I think that's very Judd-like.
Yeah. I think you guys are both excellent at your craft. You're very obsessive about your craft.
I think I could help him though.
You're both great family men. Judd with his dog and wife. Where, Kirk with his kids.
Yeah, Kirk with his kids and family, and me with Dawn and Stella. It's not exactly the same.
And your cans of Surly are a part of the family as well. The adopted
I
cans
wonder if
of
Kirk
Surly.
has the occasional cocktail.
I
have no idea.
What do you think?
I bet he enjoys a very nice, cheap, light beer every once in a while.
Yeah, like a Corona?
Yeah.
No, lower.
Like a Keystone?
I think he loves himself a Miller Lite.
I was going to say, he strikes me as a Coors Light.
He loves a Miller Lite.
I was going to say Coors Light.
Yeah.
I think you guys are on to
And
something.
if he's feeling frisky, maybe a full Budweiser. Not a Bud Light, a full-on Budweiser.
Yep.
Bud Heavy, as they like to call it.
I could see him out to dinner with a glass of wine, too.
I could see that. Yeah.
Just whatever the house Chardonnay is, something like that.
You like that?
Boys, the Vikings gave everyone the positive feels yesterday. This is Mackey and Judd, daily Minnesota sports, entertainment, therapy, speculation, whatever you need from us. If you missed Vikings Vent Line, the debut of the 2022 season edition of Vikings Vent Line, it's already on track to be one of the most consumed Vent Lines, maybe even like tracking for like the number 1 spot here in the next 48 hours. So thanks to everyone who jumped on after the game. Just thousands of people celebrating a Vikings ass whooping of the Green Bay Packers. This is a Statements Monday here on Mackey and Judd. And I want to start you guys off with this one. We dabbled at the very end of Purple Daily in this, but I think it's worth expanding on. My first statement is Kirk Cousins was brilliant under pressure yesterday. This has been one of his biggest problems as a Vikings quarterback. Last year, he ranked, according to Pro Football Focus, he ranked 20th when facing pressure. Now, the top quarterbacks in the league last year under pressure, Josh Allen, this is among like regular starters, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Carson Wentz, Justin Herbert. So guys that are either elite or mobile, right, can escape pressure and make a play. Kirk was 20th. When you want to go yards per attempt, so how far down the field are you completing passes on average when faced with pressure? The top 2 quarterbacks last year were Joe Burrow and Matthew Stafford, the 2 guys that wound up in the Super Bowl. Guess what? Being great against pressure helps you go further in the playoffs, helps you overcome offensive line problems. Russell Wilson's on the list, Kyler Murray again, and Lamar Jackson too, just like the Ravens push the ball on the field. Yesterday, and including the Thursday game, of all the quarterbacks who have played so far, it's only 1 week, but after week 1, Kirk Cousins has the 2nd highest grade PFF against pressure behind only Josh Allen. And he averaged 10 yards per throw facing pressure. So it wasn't just like, oh God, swing pass to Madison or, backup tight end in the flat. It was faced with pressure, hunting for big plays down the field, driving the ball down the field. And I go back to one of the first things Kevin O'Connell said in his introductory press conference when asked about Cousins. And he said, it is my job to try to get him to play with a more quiet mind. And this is exactly what he's talking about. When things are breaking down, oh my God, pressure. Blah, 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 blah. What are you doing? Are you still completing passes down the field? Are you shriveling and checking down or throwing incomplete passes? And he was excellent under pressure yesterday.
And he also did not run once, which is, I mean, he does have a tendency when things are breaking down and he gets a little bit scared to run. The other thing is, so there were a few plays I thought that were sort of that demonstrated the difference in Kirk being coached up and Kirk just being turned loose. The obvious one that comes to mind is the long pass to Jefferson, which is a great play where he's under obvious pressure, actually almost runs up in the pocket and launches the ball. Something I don't recall him doing. It was very Keenum-like. Like that's something Case did. The other one that I think is also very instructive of the difference in Kirk, and it's a small thing, but it's huge, is there's a play, I think it was in the second half, but there's a play where Kenny Clark beats Ingram first, tosses him aside, see ya, Ed, and then tosses Bradbury aside, see ya, Garrett, and he's bearing down on Kirk, and it ends up being an incompletion, but most importantly, Kirk is cocking back to throw, and Clark tries to swipe at the ball, doesn't get it, and it falls incomplete. I swear to God, the last 4 years, Kirk has the ball swiped away and fumbles. And I mean, think about all the times that we've talked about, Kirk Cousins fumbled again and why, and the offensive line is breaking down. Your assessment has to be, for every team in this league, the offensive lines are going to break down a lot. Like, it happens. The question is, what do you do? And nobody was demanding there, Kirk Cousins better complete the damn pass, right? Nobody said that. He threw an incompletion. But the most important thing was, one, he didn't get sacked, which would not have been some huge fault, but he didn't get sacked. Mm-hmm. And two, he didn't lose the football, which would have been a huge problem. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's how games change. So it's just small stuff like that to me, if Kirk can continue on the track of cleaning those things up and navigating the pocket, he doesn't have to become Tarkington, but just being more comfortable becomes absolutely huge. And so I really take stock in a very good step one for Kirk doing the things that we have asked for 4 years here. 4 years.
Yeah.
And yesterday, I think he did them. It doesn't mean it's all flashy, and it doesn't mean he's going to become somebody he's not, but it does mean that gives you a chance to win a game pretty damn convincingly.
One more statistical thing on this, all right? So the average depth of target when faced with pressure. So again, I'm getting in the statistical weeds here a little bit.
Get those nerds! Nerds!
But it's basically, when you're faced with pressure, are you trying to throw the ball down the field still? And that's that Kurt Warner video that we watched last week. He's saying there's pressure coming from this side. It means you got a one-on-one matchup down the field here. I mean, this is the time to hunt and attack down the field. You should be welcoming this pressure. This is great. And the best quarterbacks in the NFL are averaging, 15, 16 yards per target on those pressure plays. Last year, so this is kind of crazy. Russell Wilson, and that offensive line's been a train wreck for years in Seattle. Now he's with Denver. He averaged 16 yards depth of target when faced with pressure in 2021.
Yep.
Patrick Mahomes averaged 13 yards. There's some guys in here too, like Jalen Hurts, 14 yards. Aaron Rodgers, 12 yards. Cousins ranked last year 25th in average depth of target when faced with pressure last year. Because it's this, oh God, check down, right? And so I think that's what Kevin O'Connell's trying to get him to do is, dude, this is good. You want you don't want like Ed Ingram getting blown off the line of scrimmage, but advantageously, you should be hunting down the field in these situations. So great sign yesterday. Great sign all around.
Absolutely.
All right, next statement.
Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go here. My statement is stay aggressive on offense. So the only time yesterday that the Vikings offense kind of reminded me of 2021 and the lacklusterness was an 8-play sequence between the end of the first into the second quarter. In those 8 plays, the Vikings had a 3-and-out. Then in their second possession, they did get a first down, I believe 5 plays, 6, 7 plays or so, but it went heavy to Alexander Madison and C.J. Ham. with 0 targets to Justin Jefferson. 8 plays, about 2 to 3 different handoffs to Madison, a swing pass to C.J. Ham, no targets to Justin Jefferson. Adam Thielen called the offense the most explosive and aggressive offense he's ever been a part of, right? And that kind of 8-play sequence, didn't shipwreck the Vikings by any means, but it reminds me of the past Vikings where, all right, we have saw the blueprint in the first possession of the game, right? Feed Justin Jefferson, attack, push the ball down the field. And then all of a sudden, something gets a little conservative. Oh, we got to mix in Alexander Madison here. Oh, we got to mix in a nice little fullback swing pass here to C.J. Ham. 8 plays, 0 targets to Justin Jefferson. Now, I want the Vikings to continue to use all their playmakers, of course, because they're all over the place. Irv Smith, Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne were essentially afterthoughts in this game. But that kind of 8-play sequence where you're using just Alexander Madison and C.J. Ham, it drives me bonkers. So stay aggressive on offense.
I think what's kind of amazing, though, is like, if that's the nitpick off the game yesterday where, there was this 20-minute period where, but then they snapped out of it, they got back to it. Overall, the 11 targets. I mean, let's look at this. So last year, Jefferson, he came on strong at the end of the season with targets, but Cooper Kupp is kind of the bar, right, for how much you can just pump the ball to a guy on a regular basis. So Cooper Kupp had 191 targets last year, which led all players. He played in 17 games, so 191. So Cooper Kupp averaged 11 targets per game. Mm-hmm. Justin Jefferson yesterday had 11 targets. Mm-hmm. So and the numbers obviously came to fruition. The guy set his personal record for yards in a game. So he's on a Cooper Kupp pace for targets, and I'm not going to get too worked up if he disappears for like a series or two, as long as at the end of the day, you get him the ball 11 to 15 times, and he is the most targeted receiver in the NFL because he deserves to be.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Over to me?
Over to you.
Here's my statement. I noticed a difference in what you say in Kirk Cousins on and off the field. All right? So we just went through in Phil's opening statement about Kirk's play, about how he thrived instead of failed, and he didn't shrink under pressure. But I urge you to go to Vikings.com and watch his post-game press conference. And look, Kirk Cousins is not going to completely change. So, I'm not saying that he became Brady at the podium or something. But I urge you to watch his demeanor at the podium and the subtle differences in how he responded to questions. Kirk would always, when Zimmer was coach, it felt like Kirk often approached the podium and talked through and tried to smile uncomfortably as much as possible through gritted teeth. And I contend now that was because Kirk was upset about how things had gone with Mike. Mike didn't like Kirk. Kirk, good or not, clearly needs to be liked, okay? Go and watch his post-game presser yesterday. And that guy is at ease for as much as Kirk can possibly be at ease. He's answering questions. He's actually giving some depth of answer.
Yeah.
The bailouts aren't nearly as much of, I got to look at the film and we got to go back and look at this. And I'm sure, a team. He's actually answering and responding to questions. And he has never seemed in his time here since arriving as a free agent in 2018 as comfortable in his own skin, I thought, as he did as a person yesterday. And I think that's an incredibly important step here because you're never going to change him completely, but everything that changed yesterday speaks to me to a quarterback who is comfortable, and that is such a huge step here.
He needs infrastructure. He needs support. He's not going to be the guy that can just kind of take over an organization and impose his will and Peyton Manning comes into an organization, it's like, well, kind of matters who the coach is, but whether it's John Fox or whoever the hell the coach is, it's really Peyton Manning is setting the culture, running the show. Cousins needs more support. He needs things around him, and they're finally giving that to him with Kevin O'Connell and this scheme. And again, it's 1 week, and they have to play a really tough game on the road, Monday Night Football.
And they haven't lost, you're right.
And we have yet to see what everything looks like when they aren't front-running and winning. If they lose a couple of games in a row at some point, what does it all look and feel like? But to this point, we can only go off of the positive vibes that they continue to set for 8 months.
It feels like what we saw against the Packers was a lot of the things that we've been basically talking about on this show for a long time, though. Like that's where I'm encouraged, because I never thought that we were talking about pie in the sky impossible things. And it's like, okay, if you're not going to do that for Kirk, then Kirk here does not make sense. Yeah. But how many of the things both on and off the field have we basically said, why can't you do this? And, the Vikings, I can't do that. It's changed. It feels like it's changed. And at least that gives you a fighting opportunity, which the last 2 years for sure felt like it was gone.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next statement here, presented by our friends over at Spiral Light Candles. The Purple Positivity Victory Candle, potentially.
That's exactly right. Absolutely. Absolutely. A great gift for mom or your wife, girlfriend. Spiral Light Candles makes a product that I'm going to tell you right now provides an aroma around your house that you will love. I'm not much of a smell guy. I mean, Judd's not, but I'll tell you what, Spiral Light has changed our house. And as Phil just said, the Purple Positivity Candle available now. It's a candle, it's purple, and it's perfect because during the course of a game when things can get upsetting or hectic, guess what? That is your candle to calm you down and remind you that it's all going to be okay at the end. And it's as easy as doing this. Go to spirallightcandles.com, spirallightcandles.com, and tell them that you want a Judd's Purple Positivity Candle to ease your nerves during times of stress when you're watching football.
Underdog, you guys have a good time on Underdog this weekend?
Oh, yeah. Great time on Underdog Fantasy.
I didn't fare as well yesterday, but I've won a lot lately, so I'm still very happy.
I'll show you a little Dex tweet slip here that I just snuck in. Aaron Rodgers, under 34.5 passing attempts. Shout out to Matt LaFleur for pulling Aaron Rodgers, because I rolled that one in at exactly 34 pass attempts. Nice little sweat out there. Higher on Dalvin Cook for rushing yards. Higher on Kirk. I locked that 258 passing yards in actually last Tuesday, because those lines get out early, and then Kirk's numbers jump up a little bit. So I locked that in right away, and Kirk had no problem, 277 yards. And the great thing about this, actually, I had the insurance mode on Underdog Fantasy for Pick'em. So the insurance mode guarantees that as long as I get 2 out of 3, I still get a payout. You don't have to worry about, isn't it the worst? You have a parlay, and you don't have all 3 hit, and you obviously don't win it. Well, Underdog Fantasy gives you an opportunity to still win some money with that insurance mode. We also added so many different users to Underdog Fantasy last week. So if you want to get in on some fantasy football leagues, you want to get in on these great pick'em options to talk about, show us your slips on Underdog Fantasy. Download the Underdog Fantasy app right now and get in on the action with Judd and myself.
Amazing. You know what the real insurance mode is, though? Kevin O'Connell insuring all of the overs for those Viking stats going forward this season. All right, next statement here. Yesterday was great validation for the Vikings' decision to fire Mike Zimmer and run it back with new leadership. And I will be the first to admit, I was very skeptical. Hey, wow, you guys have been sputtering around 8 wins, 7 wins for 2 years, aging core on defense with Kendricks and Harrison Smith, and had Kirk Cousins kind of is who he is. And I will fully eat crow in 2 or 3 months from now if this team continues playing like this. Happily, I will literally, if you want me to eat a live crow on Purple Daily, I don't know if I'll do that, but
no, don't do that.
But this yesterday was great validation.
Yes.
They saw a vision for a better version of this team under better leadership, and man, that thing looked great yesterday for 3 hours. So, all right, let's do it.
Did.
Worked out really well.
Okay.
My next statement here, I'll go on the defensive side of the ball. Za'Darius Smith is exactly what this defense needs. So 45 snaps for Za'Darius Smith yesterday. He had a sack, a tackle for a loss. We have a couple quarterback hits in Rodgers' face all bleeping day, essentially. He just brings an attitude and swagger that Vikings defense has also lost a little bit. I think Everson Griffin did a great job in his prime at kind of being that high energy, high strung guy. But Za'Darius Smith is still he just turned 30 years old. He's 2 seasons removed from being an all-pro, essentially. There is still a lot of gas left in that tank, and I think Danielle Hunter obviously needs a little bit of a tag team partner in it to make life a lot easier on that defensive line. And the defensive ends have to basically get after the quarterback. The Vikings defense still a little bit of a work in progress. There was certainly some positive takeaways outside of the pass rush yesterday, but it's clearly not going to be their bread and butter. So Danielle Hunter, Za'Darius Smith, they have to do their job of getting after the quarterback, and Za'Darius Smith is exactly what this Vikings defense needs.
Amen.
He looked like the old Za'Darius, right? He did the crawl celebration, and I get why, because they've both just been ghosts. They just haven't played the last couple of years.
Yep.
But it's incredible how few people outside of Minnesota are looking at that tandem and talking about it. And it's just kind of like, oh yeah, those guys have been hurt, so they don't exist. Even on the comeback player of the year odds that I was looking at on one of the sportsbook sites, neither one of them is like a top 3 or top 4. I don't even think they're in the top 10. Like I think Za'Darius might be 8th or something, but no one's talking about them. And yesterday they showed you, oh God, yeah, those are 2 guys from like 2 years ago that were 2 of the best at their craft in the entire league. So, boy, if they stay healthy for the majority of the season,
My next statement is this: the Vikings got their kicks. So there's a couple things that we tend to ignore when they go well, because of course they go well. One is if the head coach does not go crazy on the sideline and screw up timeouts or challenges, right? Like, because O'Connell did a really good job there, and we're not really talking about it because, of course, he did. He's supposed to. But Mike, of course, struggled with that a lot of times. The other one is the kicker. Unless the kicker makes a huge field goal or misses, we're often like, of course he made his kicks. But Greg Joseph, who had a great training camp, went 3 for 3, including tying the franchise record on Sunday, making one from 56 yards with no sweat. Like, that was not a, oh my God, it hit the upright and went in, or it barely got through. That was, yeah, of course he made that kick. Well, it's not, of course, in this town. So I want to shine a light on Greg Joseph and the fact that this guy, and I'm telling you right now, the most important
Greg
person
impacted
is definitely Kirk. Like, Kirk is going to be positively impacted by the fact that he now has a coach and basically an infrastructure that believes that Kirk can be good. But Greg Joseph's a close second, you guys.
Yeah.
Greg Joseph is a close second. When you have, you think about Daniel Carlson, and what if from the moment he set foot in here, and I always said it was a terrible idea.
Foot in here.
Did you get that?
Oh my!
Did you get that? I didn't even mean it. But if you go back to Carlson, I always said drafting him was crazy because of Mike, not because he sucked. And if your kicker is incredibly important. Like, you cannot dismiss that position. I know it's a weird little thing, but it's a very important position. And to have a kicker who's comfortable and can just do his job without the threat of being exterminated by a coach who hates his guts is a huge step. So Daniel Carlson, we're sorry. Greg Joseph, bravo.
Love it. Yeah, man, that was that 56-yarder, man. That was a thing of beauty. It was a 350-yard drive, slight little baby draw right down the middle.
No worries, man.
Oof. He had that preseason kick that would have been good from like 70 yards. It was like a 49-yarder that crossed at the top of the uprights. Man, that guy's got a leg. Okay. My next statement here is the rightful style of football is back at US Bank Stadium. And I get that back in the early days of the Vikings, when you're playing outside and you're playing in December, January, snow, mud, old school football, Bud Grant, right? You got the purple people eaters. You're going to play a defensive style outdoor football, and you're gonna grind it. And they had some great offenses too, but it was known for defensive style football. But again, the best Vikings teams in my life have been aerial attack, track meet, take a lead, let the defense operate, knowing the opposing team's going to pass. And they've had some great defenses too, late 80s, right? That 87 defense, the Mike Zimmer defenses that peaked in 2017. But when you're talking about leveraging what you have with an indoor stadium and the noise that you can create, big passing plays down the field, using that artificial turf to let your receivers run great routes and get open down the field, and just attacking, and then the fans get into it, and now you have a lead, and the opposing team knows they have to pass, and it's loud. Like, that's what the great Vikings teams in my life have felt like. They've yet to pay it off with a Super Bowl, and so hopefully that's coming at some point. But And Zimmer did a great job of kind of jamming a square peg into a round hole. We're going to play defensive style football here inside. And he did it. Like, they did a great job for a couple years, but this feels more natural to me watching this franchise. And I think the fans are more attracted to it. They get more excited behind it. And I thought the atmosphere just watching on TV reflected that yesterday too. I mean, you were inside the stadium, so you can speak on it, Judd.
It's a lot more fun. And yes, when you have what potentially looks like it very well could be a high-flying offensive attack, defense is fun, and fans will make noise. But when you're basing your success on one thing, and that is we are going to outscore you, it's more fun. So yes, I think fans for a multitude of reasons now at US Bank Stadium are going to be a lot more into it. They wanted to be, but I always felt like, the Cleveland game, right? Last year, opening drive, a score. Oh, this is going to be great. I think that was the last touchdown. So, yeah, it felt like with the adjustments made and, again, a superstar player. That's the most important thing. Justin Jefferson is going to be someone everyone gravitates to. Because it's not like, they've got a really fun attack. They don't really have a star, player. Or it's Dalvin Cook is their star. Dalvin's fine. I'm not trying to rip him. But when you have a guy like Jefferson who can run the routes and is arguably uncoverable, there is nothing that makes a crowd, I think, more electric than that type of player.
Amen. Amen. All right, Dex.
Yeah, one more from me here. I'll say that was the expectation for Kirk Cousins. This is the expectation for what Kirk Cousins should deliver week in and week out for the Vikings. When he signed the ironclad deal, when you thought he was going to take the team that went to an NFC Championship game back there or to a Super Bowl, yesterday's performance is the exact kind of performance we want to see from Kirk Cousins week in and week out. 22 of 32, 277 yards. Graded across all great boards on QBR, on passer rating, on PFF grades. It was universally loved. There really wasn't one thing that stood out that was really a negative in his game. He stood in the pocket. He looked at Justin Jefferson. He didn't check down to a Tyler Conklin, if you will. I know he doesn't play for the Vikings, but I saw that too many times last year that's in my head still. He did everything that's the expectation for Kirk Cousins, is what he did against Aaron Rodgers. And he historically actually has played very well against Aaron Rodgers-led teams when he's been with the Vikings. He actually now owns, I think, a 4-3-1 record against the Packers since coming to Minnesota. So that is the expectation for Kirk. Why are we so hard on Kirk? Because he has performances like this in him that we want to see week in and week out. That's the expectation.
And he did check down, but that's fine. We've never said, don't check down ever, Kirk. We've said, hold on a second, there's opportunities at times, and you still check down. And so, that's the thing. He threw as many completions to Johnny Munt as Thielen, as Osborne. But they also exploited matchups with Jefferson down the field. So, this is... Nobody ever said, well, Kirk, you've got to completely change. And if you don't air the ball out, you suck. What we've said is there's opportunities here. And so, now, if you check down a few times, yeah, bravo. That's fine. Don't fumble. But that's where, this is all... We've never asked him to be, this unbelievable QB. We've asked him to function like he should for a guy that earns his paycheck. And I think it's very fair to say on Sunday he earned his paycheck.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Judd, final Viking statement from you?
A final Viking statement is this, and it's to the rest of the National Football League. 31 teams besides the Vikings. Good luck. So you're going to hear today with Justin Jefferson. The Packers, and we already saw it last night. The Packers didn't do a good job. Packers screwed up. Packers, what are they doing there? Justin Jefferson,
What happened to the Packers defense?
Yeah, exactly. Which, by the way, we talked about extensively, is a very well-respected defense, okay? So now the whole thing in Philadelphia probably this week is going to be, how are you going to shut down Jefferson? You're got to do a better job than the Packers, right? Ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens when you have a superstar player in a good scheme. The Vikings are going to have alterations for Monday. It's not going to look the exact same. And this notion that teams aren't, you didn't cover Jefferson. I don't take it lightly when I equate 18 with 84. Jefferson and Moss, think about Moss's first few years, all right? Do you think teams purposely said, you know what? We're not really going to cover him. Screw it. We'll just let him have great games. The Green Bay Packers in 1999 drafted 3 defensive backs 6 feet or taller to combat the problems that Moss created. Jefferson's the same type. So like this whole notion of, I guarantee you we're going to go through a month of, well, teams are going to shut down Jefferson. They're going to find a way. You know what teams do? They shut down the Thielens, who's a very good player, but you can find a way. I challenge a team. Good luck in completely taking away this offense if Jefferson is used correctly, which I think from what we saw yesterday, small sample size alert, is very possible that he's going to be used differently and correctly. But this is the whole Cooper Kupp thing. Cooper Kupp, why is he in motion? Because the defense has to show you what it plans to do then. And that's where you create mismatches that can be exploited the second the ball is snapped. This was never when you have the player. So I'll be clear here. When you have the player like Jefferson, this was never this implausible, well, you can't do that. Which is why people, God bless them, who watch film in their basement, God bless them, who tell me, well, you can't do this. What's Kubiak supposed to do? These guys are paid millions of dollars to figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
This is what you do.
Down their throats.
And it's a superstar.
So you have
it's not a good player.
With this scheme, you've got Justin Jefferson. You good?
You all right?
No, this is what we've been calling for. And when you see it come to fruition, it brings tears to your eyes because it's so beautiful.
Well, you got Justin Jefferson, who just on his own is one of the most talented, unguardable receivers in the league. And then you watch the scheme yesterday, and it's crossing patterns, and it's motions, and just trying to keep track of where your guy is going. Yes. And then your guy is Justin Jefferson, and that's how's he breaking so wide open? Well, he's amazing, and the scheme is confusing for opposing defenses to decipher what's happening, and there's no film on it yet. There's some film with the Rams and stuff, but there's no Vikings Kevin O'Connell film.
And not with that guy, there's not.
Yeah. So before we get to a buffoon of the week, I do think we should highlight some sad Packers fans from the weekend. And speaking of, by the way, Packer Vent Line, ordinarily, courtesy of our friends on The Fan in Milwaukee, well, that station was blown sky high about 3 weeks ago, and some really good, talented people lost their jobs. Bart Winkler, our guy Rami, actually, he about 2 months ago went out to Sacramento to take an afternoon hosting job out with Nick Cattles. And so, but hopefully those guys find a landing spot. But it also means that the Green and Gold postgame show no longer existed. So we had to go and tap some other sources for sad Packers fans.
Go, Pack, go! And he is there to block Za'Darius Smith, which they do. And he's going for a bomb! Oh, no! It's a bomb to Christian Watson, and he drops it! No! Oh, my God. No! Oh! Oh, man, that just killed me. He had it, and he dropped it. Oh, my God, he was wide open. No!
What do you suppose he went to type real quick there?
Well, I think he's running. He's got a
running a live
graphics
stream.
package. He's got the scoreboard up there. He's got the
awesome.
bottom
Good for
scroll.
him.
I think he's producing his own live stream on the fly.
Yeah.
Is it Tom Grossi or Tom Grossi comedy?
Yep.
So he's a comedian who also is by the 43 different Packers helmets on his desk there.
It's awesome.
Is also a diehard Packers fan. Apparently, he just live streams his reaction to the game. That was the first play of the game for the Packers. Nice draft pick, guys. Nice draft pick.
Got one more here.
Go, Pack, go!
Whatever they're doing, whether it's training camp, whether it's preseason, and Matt LaFleur said this, that they need to look at everything. He's not lying. They need to look at everything with the way that they get ready to play week one, because this is not to the standard. This cannot be how this looks.
Well, it is week one, the last 2 years. If you thought yesterday was bad, go check out, if you forgot what they did. Was it the Saints that just beat the brakes off them in week one?
Last year. Didn't they just get hammered?
And then they figured it out.
I think Rodgers called him an embarrassment after week 1 last year, right? He dropped something that was highly controversial.
Okay.
He ripped him. And I think it was not taken well.
Yeah. But then they only lost 2 games the rest of the year. So I would not totally write the Packers off quite yet. But there it is, Packer Vent Line here. We got Bears Vent Line whenever that's ready to go. Just sometimes it's just fun to look at sad Packer fans and laugh to ourselves. Boys, Buffoon of the Week here every single Monday. It's a recognizable face if you are a Packer fan. Don't let the Dak Prescott thumb injury fool you. The Dallas Cowboys, led by Buffoon of the Week Mike McCarthy, had scored 3 points. That was a home game for them last night. Jerry Jones up there in the owner suite. They scored 3 points with Dak Prescott. And then they brought Cooper Rush in the game. So classic Mike McCarthy bewildered face on the sidelines for 3 hours last night, staring off into the distance with his little like neck chin beard thing that he's got going on. I think Declan is probably right here. I thought they might get toward the end of the season, but boy, Mike McCarthy being around by the time December, January rolls around seems like a long shot. So Mike McCarthy is the Buffoon of the Week here on Mackey and Judd.
I still think it's Dan Quinn. I think Dan Quinn replaces him, and then depending on his, if Dan Quinn does a great job, I think he gets the job. If things don't go well, Sean Payton, man, is just sitting there. Someone's gonna get him. And as much as I detest him as a person, he is a heck of a coach. Like, you can't dismiss his quarterback whisperer background.
I would say that I know that Mike McCarthy has a Super Bowl. But Dan Quinn's a better coach right now in 2022, don't you think? Wouldn't you lean on? I mean, Dan Quinn also didn't. Dan Quinn have he was the one that blew the 28-point lead in the Super
Falcons.
Bowl. So he kind of has a Super Bowl, but no.
Yes, and they paid. I want to say that he was being pursued pretty heavily during the offseason for head coaching jobs, and I think the Cowboys paid a pretty penny to keep him.
Yeah,
so he's being paid well. Yeah, McCarthy. I don't know what happened there. The fastball is gone. He was a good coach at one time, for sure. But I feel like the fastball is gone.
Yeah, that's probably.
He and Zim should go to a ranch, hang out, and drink Surly's.
They should. They should. By the way, in case you're wondering what our Twitter mentions look like right now, somebody is responding. There's a Judd tweet in here somewhere where you're telling someone that a lot of people defended the sinking ship the last 2 years, and the Purple Daily family demanded change and finally got it. Just being hopeful doesn't cut it. And then another guy jumps in and says, it's not your job. You're not God. It's not your job to demand anything. But then, hold on, this debate gets better.
Oh, okay.
Then another guy jumps in and says, no, it literally is his job. Like, his job is to talk about the Vikings every day.
Right.
And Jay Boogie 79 says, he's a YouTuber on a podcast. It's not his job.
That's exactly right. Still live in my mom's
Twitter,
basement.
Yes.
Despite the fact she's dead.
Jeez.
But that was weird because that started with a Kirk thing. And I said, look, Kirk played great. Kudos. But this is what we want. But then it turned out that he said I shouldn't pass judgment on Kirk because that's between Kirk and God or something. Like that's the thing is.
What?
Yeah, I think it was a religious thing. So, like, my whole point is, I'll talk Kirk
does God
all
watch
day.
Red Zone Channel? I feel like he's a little too busy to be sitting down.
He's got it. Like,
God outsources football criticism to other people on Earth because he doesn't have time to watch.
The way I believe in God, you could probably watch every game live and like grasp everything, like everything.
He doesn't need Red Zone Channel. He's
exactly right.
Sits up and kicks his feet back.
I introduced Red Zone Channel to my girlfriend's 15-year-old brother for the first time yesterday. He had never heard.
He was a Red Zone virgin?
No idea what Red Zone Channel was up until yesterday afternoon when I came home from the airport. And I was like, we were watching like Bears, and I was like, dude, I don't want to watch this. Like, can we watch Red Zone? He goes, what's Red Zone? And I was like, what's Red Zone? And I just blew his mind. He was of how incredible
what you need to do?
The Red Zone Channel was.
Remove him from that house.
Well,
remove him from that house.
I don't want to be a caretaker for a 16-year-old. That's just I have
then
my
put
own.
him in red zone foster
My
care.
own butt is tough to wipe right now. I'm not responsible for another one.
Thanks
That's
for
not
that
happening.
update.
You're welcome.
Mr.
But
Bidet.
I'm just letting you know. But yes, it was hilarious teaching him red zone.
Amazing. All right. I would think, the
Great
first
check-in.
time you discover red zone is like the first time you discover porn. It's just like, whoa, what? I didn't know this existed. Anyhow, those are your Viking statements here on a Monday.
I didn't see that coming.
Mackey and Judd.